Hello all, welcome back to the second session on control statements in Python. In the last class we have seen the non-sequential control flow, in which first type of non-sequential control flow, that was selective statements, right? Now we will discuss the second type of non-sequential control flow, that is iterative statements. So what's actually iteration? Iteration is also called loops, which is to repeat a block of statements. A set of statements, if you want to repeat, we can use this loops or iterative statements. So why we need such statements in our program? Just for example, suppose we want to read the details of a student like name, register number, marks in different subjects. Then we have to compute the grade of that student and we have to display all these details. Suppose we have to perform such a task and we have to repeat it for 100 students. In that case, instead of writing the same code 100 times, we can simply write the code for a single student and ask the processor to repeat it 100 times. Okay, in that case, we can use the corresponding control constructs for looping or iteration in any programming language. In case of Python, to support this type of looping or iteration, we have two different control constructs. Those are for loop and while loop. Okay, so in this session we will see the while loop implementation, and the second or the next session we will see the for loop implementation. So in case of loop, each pass over the block is called iteration. So the same code will be repeated many times, right? So each pass or each execution of this body of the loop is called an iteration. So we will see the while loop in this session. This while loop is actually used to iterate over a block of code as long as the test expression is true. So we will give a test expression first, and based on that we have to repeat this code. Okay. So first the expression will be tested, and if it is true, the body of the loop will be executed once. Again this condition will be tested, and this procedure will be repeated as long as the condition holds true, and whenever this condition becomes false, this execution will exit the corresponding loop. That is how the while is actually implemented. And in general case, this while loop is usually used when we don't know beforehand the number of times to iterate. We know some condition, based on that we have to repeat. We don't know in advance how many times we have to repeat. The count is not known in advance. In such case we usually use this while loop. But in both cases we can use this while loop or for loop. We will see the syntax of both. So in case of a while loop, this is the flow chart. First we have to test the condition. In order to enter into the loop, beforehand we have to test the condition. If it is true, we will execute the body of the while once. Again this expression will be evaluated. If it is true, again this body will be executed, and this procedure will be repeated as long as this condition holds true. And whenever this condition is evaluated to false, this body of the loop will be exited. Next statement will be executed. That is how the while is actually implemented. So let us see how this while loop can be used in a Python program to repeat a set of statements. So the problem selected here is the program to add natural numbers up to n, where n is provided by the user. That is, we have to perform this operation 1 plus 2 plus up to n, where n is given by the user. Okay. So first step is to take the value of n from the keyboard. So we are using this input function to read a value from the keyboard, and we are converting that into an integer, and we are storing that into n. Okay. So what we have to do is we have to find the sum, right? So in an iterative way, that means that each time we are adding a new value. First it will be 1, then second iteration we are adding 2, third iteration we are adding 3, like that. So initially we have a variable sum to store this cumulative sum, and the sum should be initialized to 0 in. Then after that, each iteration, the current value of the counter we can add it to that. Why we need a counter here? To keep track how many iteration is over, right? Because we know the value of n, right? So up to n we have to repeat the iteration. To keep track that, we have a counter, that is I here. It should be initialized to 1. Then after each iteration we have to update it, that is I equal to I plus 1 we have to perform. So we need two variables, one to store the sum which is initialized to 0, that is to store the cumulative sum, and a counter variable I to keep track how many times we have already done the iteration. And the condition here is that when and where this n and I become equal, that is the counter become n, that means we have already done n iterations, we have to stop. So this is the condition. As long as this condition hold, that is counter is less than or equal to n, we can perform the iteration to add the value. Otherwise, that is if I greater than n, that means already n iteration is over. Now I is n plus 1, then we have to stop. So this is the condition here. And the body of the statement is what we have to do. We have to find the cumulative sum by adding the current value of counter to sum. And for the next iteration, we have to update the counter I equal to I plus 1. These are the two different statements within the body of the loop. Okay. And finally, when these iterations are over, when the condition becomes false, means n different iterations are done, we have the value, that is 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus up to n will be there in sum. In that case, this while loop will be exited. Then we will come here, that the next statement is print the sum is the corresponding value. Okay, so this is how this while loop is working in Python. So the syntax for while is a keyword, then we have to write the condition here, then a colon, that is the syntax. Then after that we have to write all the statements to be included in the corresponding loop. Body of the while loop, all should be written in the same indentation. That is different from the indentation of the while. Okay, so here the normal program, main program, this is the indentation, and all the statement to be included within this while loop, this is the indentation. Like that we have to write the program. And the output here, suppose we are entering the value of n as 10, what happens? Initially sum will be 0, I equal to 1. We will check the condition, the value of I is 1 and the value of n is 10. So 1 is less than 10. So sum is equal to sum plus I will be executed, that is 0. The initial value of 0, right? And new value of sum is equal to the previous value of sum, that is 0, plus I, that is 1. So now sum become 1, I become 2, right? Then body of the loop ends here, right? Again go to the condition, while loop is working like that. Again go for the condition 2. Now the value of I is 2, 2 less than or equal to 10. Yeah, again the condition is true. Sum equal to sum plus I. Sum, the new value of sum is equal to current value of sum is already 1 plus the value of I, that is 2. So 1 plus 2, that will be assigned to sum. I become 3. Again go to the condition 3 less than or equal to 10, right? Sum now become, already we have 1 plus 2, right? That is 3 plus the current value of I, that is 3. So 1 plus 2 plus 3 will be stored in sum. I become 4. Like this it will be repeated until I become 10. In the case of I equal to 10 also, this condition is true, right? So this will be added. Sum will be 1 plus 2 plus up to 10. All those will be added together. Now I become 11. When I become 11, again we are going for a condition. Now this condition becomes false, right? I is 11 and n is 10. 11 less than or equal to 10, that is wrong. So what happens? The loop will be exited. Okay. So next statement is this print statement. Print the sum is the value of sum, that is 55. That will be displayed on the screen. So this is how the loop proceeds. Now we have different special cases of this while loop. One is while loop with else. Okay. So in case of Python, we have optional else with a while. Just for example, we can see how it actually works. Normal, we are using a counter variable here just to understand how this else part works. Here we are trying to print within the body of while we have an inside loop. This is a message displayed. Then we are updating the counter. So initial value of counter is 0 and the condition is counter less than 3. We have to repeat these 3. So 0, 1, 2, these 3 values, this test condition will be true, right? So inside loop will be printed. Now when this condition becomes false, the else part will be executed. That is the working of else. Okay. So whenever the condition of while is false, else part will be executed. So this all the iterations are over, definitely else part will be executed. So here 3 times, that is when counter equal to 0, 1 and 2, this condition is true, in that case inside loop will be displayed 3 times. Then when counter become 3, this condition is false, so this body of while loop will be executed, so else part will be executed. So this inside else will be printed as the last statement. So this is actually while with else. So we will see what is the requirement for such an else with another example. Now some other control statements which enable us to change or alter the control flow other than the sequential one is break and continue. We can change the execution order within a loop using these two special control statements. Those are break and continue. So break and continue statements can alter the flow of a normal loop. If we put some break or continue within the loop, we will see how the control flow changes. Loops normally iterates over a block of code until this expression is false, right? As you know, in the case of a while, as long as the condition is true, it will repeat the iterations, right? But sometimes we wish to terminate the current iteration or even the whole loop without checking test expression. But based on some situation, we may have to exit the loop even without checking the condition again, or in between we need not proceed again, but we have to start with a new iteration. Such situations we can use these types of statement. We will see how these two different differs and how can be used in a program. So the break statement is the first one. Break statement terminates the loop containing it. If you put a break within a loop, whenever that break is executed, the corresponding loop will be exited without checking for the condition. Even if the corresponding test condition is true, when a break is executed, definitely that loop will be terminated. Control of the program flows to the statement immediately after the body of the loop. If it is inside a nested loop, you know what is nested loop, right? One loop inside another loop. In that case, if this break is within the inner loop, it will go out of the inner loop. Okay, the immediate loop within which it is residing, that will be terminated. So this is how the flow chart of the break is there. So we have the condition of the while loop. In our example, while is our test loop, right? Yeah, condition is here. If it is true, we will enter into body of the loop, right? And within the body of the loop, if the statement is a break, what happens? Yeah, that terminated our program is loop is exited actually, just like false condition. In the case of a false condition, we will exit the loop, right? Like that, if the body of the loop, the statement is a break, then also we will exit the loop. Otherwise, if it is not a break statement, as usual, we will execute the body of the loop and again go for the condition like that. Whenever we execute a break within the body of the loop, automatically that loop will be terminated and the next statement will be executed. So here you can see that while test expression, body of the while, if condition, break. So we can put some condition, some other condition here. If you want to break in some special cases within our body, then we can put some break here. Whenever the break is encountered, of course the control flow will be exited from the body of the while loop. It will come to the statement immediately after the body of the loop. So here is the body of the loop. After that we have some statement, right? Yeah, the control will move to that statement, that is a break. You can see an example for that. Normal case without any break, we are trying to print numbers from 1 to 8. Okay, I is initialized to 1. Then we are checking whether I is less than or equal to 8. If so, we have to print I. Then we are updating I. Okay, so first 1 will be printed. Then I is updated to 2. Again we are checking the condition. Yeah, 2 is less than 8. Again 2 will be printed. I is updated to 3 up to when I become 8 also, this will be executed, right? Print will be executed. So 1 to 8 will be printed. After that, when I become 9, this condition become false and the loop will be exited. So up to 8 we will get the output. Now suppose we are inserting a break in between. So here we see I equal to 1, initializing the counter variable. Here the condition also same, I less than or equal to 8, we have to print, updating the counter variable. Then we are giving a special case. If I equal to 5, just break. That's our condition. What happens? Yeah, up to 4 it will be printed, right? But after that, when I equal to 5, this condition is true, then break will be executed. What happens? The loop will be exited. Okay. So this is how this break will execute in a program. Now, let us see what happens if while loop with else contains a break. Yeah, the earlier program itself, we are giving a value counter 0. While counter less than 3, we are printing inside loop, counter is updated, and we are giving a special condition here. If counter equal to 2, break. You remember the previous program without these two statements, right? Yeah, we are trying to print inside loop as long as this condition hold, that is counter is initially 0 and the condition is less than 3, and each time you are updating the counter to counter plus 1, right? So what happens here? Yeah, when the counter is 0 and 1, 2, these 3 times this inside loop will be printed. After that this condition become false, so the else part will be displayed, right? That is inside else will be displayed. But here we are inserting a new statement, if counter equal to 2, break. So initially in case of counter equal 0 and 1, no problem, as usual it will proceed. When it become 2, the counter value become 2, then also the inside loop will be displayed. After that only we are checking whether the counter equal to 2. Yeah, in that case we are telling to break the loop. In that case, what happens is the entire loop will be exited. This else part will not be executed. That's a specialty of this break. It will exit the entire loop without looking to the else part. So this will not be executed if we have a break inside this while loop. That is the specialty of break within while loop with else. Now let us see what is continuous statement. It is used to skip the rest of the code inside a loop for the current iteration only. Okay, it is not exiting from the loop, but it will stop proceeding with the current iteration and it will go to the next iteration. Again, it will move to the condition for starting the next iteration. Okay, loop does not terminate but continues with the next iteration. We will see an example for that. Before that, the flowchart for this continuous statement. Inside the while loop we have the condition first, right? Yeah, condition is true, then we will move to the body of the loop. If the body of the loop is a statement, continuous statement, what happens? The rest of the body of the loop for the current iteration will be skipped. It simply go to test condition again for the next iteration. That is the continuous statement. Okay, and if it is if the condition is false, definitely the exit of the loop, right? Yeah. This is a continuous statement. We will see an example for that also. Simple program just to display the numbers from 1 to 10. Our counter variable here is just initialized to 0 first, and the test condition is I less than 8. And we are incrementing first, then only we are displaying. So the value, starting value for displaying is actually 1. Okay. So equal to I plus 1, that is I equal to 1 for the first iteration, then printing I, that is 1 will be printed. Again move to the condition. Now I is 1, right? 1 less than 8 is true. Again I became 2, print 2. Then I less than 8 is again checked. Now the value of I is 2. This will be repeated until I becomes 7. In case of 7 also this is true, that will be executed. I will be incremented to 8. 8 will be displayed. What happens after that? For the next iteration, 8 less than 8, that is the condition here, right? Yeah, that is false, so this body of the loop will be exited. So ultimately we will get the result as 1 to 8. This is the outcome. Now let us see what happens if we insert some continuous statement within this body of this while loop. Yeah, here we have the code, the same code, okay? Only the difference is that if we are inserting some continuous statement based on a condition is that if I equal to 5, continue. So for the first value, just like the earlier one, I equal to 0 was the initial value, right? Yeah, that is incremented to 1. That will be checked for this condition. That is not true, right? So what happens? This if part will be, this body of the if was just skipped. Print will be executed. So we will get 1 as the output. For the next iteration also, that is I equal to 2, also this will be executed, no problem, because I equal to 5 is false here. As long as this condition is false, that is value of I equal to 1, 2, 3 and 4, we will get the displaying result as the corresponding number, right? After that, what happens is, when I become 5 here, I equal to I plus 1, I become 5, this condition will be true. What happens? Body of this if part will be executed, that is continue will be executed, and the function of this continue is to skip all the statements, rest of the statements of the while, and to just restart with the next iteration of this while loop. Yeah, so what happens when I equal to 5 here? This rest of the statement here only we have a print statement as the rest of the while loop, right? That will be skipped. So print 5 will be skipped. We don't have a 5 here. It will move to the next iteration. Okay, 5 less than 8. It is checked for condition. Yeah, it is true. 5 I equal to 5 plus 1 6. I equal to 6. Now this condition will be false. What happens then? This continue will be skipped. Print will be executed, right? Yeah. So 6, 7 and 8 will be displayed. So ultimately what happens, whenever this condition is true, continue will be executed. In that case, the rest of the body of this while loop will be skipped. Whatever may be available. Here only one print statement. So that print will be skipped for I equal to 5. So we are not getting 5 in the output. So this is how this continue statement proceeds. Okay, thank you.